Classroom Elite is a story about Ayanokoji, and no matter how the story is already all over the place, the very core of Classroom Elite's story is how Ayanokoji is trying to learn about humans do a lot of things, and since Classroom Elites especially like to explore psychology and emotion, there are certain patterns that occasionally happen to the characters, and 5 stages of grief is one of them. 5 stages of grief is a term that often used to explain how humans behave when they experience an abrupt realization, or more commonly used to explain how humans accept the death of their loved ones. Although this theory is empirically unsupported, a lot of writers like to use this as a reference, and Classroom Elite is no exception. Although Classroom Elite never deal with death, we have similar experience where some beloved characters need to say goodbye to the readers, which is the student expulsion. The very first expulsion that happened in Classroom of the Elite is the expulsion of Yamochi, and back in Volume 10 first year arc, we could already see the 5 stages of grief playing a part in Hirata's character. For a note, the 5 stages of grief consist of 5 different human emotions, which are denial, anger, bargaining, repression, and finally acceptance. All of these stages could be seen clearly in Hirata's character ever since the class bowl exam was announced. At first he tries to deny it, saying that there is no need for anyone to get expelled. Even until Horikita suggests Yamochi to be expelled, Hirata still cannot make any decision, simply because he cannot accept the cruelty of that exam. What's coming next is the anger. When Horikita finally proposed for Yamochi to be expelled, Hirata cursed her, saying that she has no right to decide who deserves to be expelled or not. He also got angry at the other classmates who were plotting to expel Ayanokoji, and that is the first time they see the other side of Hirata. After that, Hirata finally reached the rock bottom. Instead of seeing his precious classmates get expelled, he offered himself as the candidate for expulsion. Instead of Yamochi or any other students, he bargains his own life in a desperate attempt to at least lessen the guilt in his heart. At the end, we knew that he failed, and Yamochi got expelled, so Hirata moved to the next phase of grief, which is the depression state. Hirata's depression state lasted quite long, and he refused any hands that tried to comfort him. Since his ideal had been shattered after the last exam, he left everything that usually became the shell of his personality. He stopped smiling, stopped cherishing his friends, and refused to help the class. The depressed Hirata kept mourning in solitude, and could only accept the reality after his talk with Ayanokoji. Everyone always says that Hirata is not the one at fault for Yamochi's expulsion, but when Ayanokoji said it was his fault for not preparing 20 million beforehand, Hirata finally felt punished, and managed to cry, letting go all his sorrow. It's only in that moment that he could finally accept reality, and manage to step forward to make sure the tragedy wouldn't happen again. In Hirata's case, the subject of his grief is not actually Yamochi, but the peaceful day and the dream to graduate together with his classmates. He always believed they could avoid any expulsion, but when the class bowl exam was announced, that dream died in an instant. This is also the same case with Haruka. She always believes they will be friends forever, but when that dream faces a risk, she starts to lose her mind. At first she denied everything, saying that Sakura is not the one who was supposed to get expelled. And then she released her anger, cursing anyone who doesn't care about who's getting expelled as long as it's not themselves, including Ayanokoji. And then, just like Hirata, she offers herself to be the one to get expelled. It's the same case as Hirata and Yamochi, but just different people and a different exam. Haruka's depression lasted longer than Hirata's, and she refused to just be silent and actually planned some revenge. However, the solution is the same, which is to make her realize her wrongdoing, and accept the reality that there is no use for her to keep doing what she did. At the end, she still cannot fully accept the reality, but she learns to live with it because she knows that is the best thing she could do. Haruka's 5 stages of grief feel like a repetition of Hirata's, and it's a good thing they never use the same pattern again. Just like in Sakayanagi's case when she lost Komuro, Sakayanagi didn't show any denial or anger, but she still walked out with regret and wonder. Sakayanagi is not really good at expressing her emotion, but her depression is real, and her conversation with Ayanokoji has proven it. In their conversation, at first Sakayanagi denies that Komuro's expulsion had any impact, saying that she wasn't an exceptional student to begin with. After that, she got slightly angry at Ayanokoji because he thought Komuro's expulsion affected her, and she kept rejecting it. And then, Ayanokoji told her that she should have expelled someone else and let Komuro stay, and this is where Sakayanagi started to bargain. Losing Komuro is not exactly what made Sakayanagi grieve, but her capability as the leader did. She refuses to acknowledge that she made a wrong decision, but the result still leaves a regret that could be visibly seen in the next volume. It's hard to say if Sakayanagi ever entered the depression state or not, but at the very end of her student stay in ANHS, I think she already accepted that she is in fact a shitty leader. Other than expulsion, there is one scene where we saw the 5 stages of grief happen to one of the class leaders, which is Horikita when Ayanokoji finally leave the class. This one is probably my favorite, mostly because it doesn't take more than 1 volume to be resolved, and actually means something to the story. It all started when Horikita got a shock hearing Ayanokoji transferred to another class. At first she thinks it was just an April mop, and even if she already hears a confirmation from Chabashira, she still refuses to believe it until she hears the confirmation from Ayanokoji himself. However, when Ayanokoji refused to talk to her, that's when Horikita feels a slight anger. It's probably due to Ayanokoji not giving her any explanation, and leaving Horikita floating in the middle of doubt. But Horikita has every right to feel angry, because Ayanokoji literally betrayed her, and doesn't even consider their long relationship worth explaining. However, that anger didn't last long, because fear and sorrow were taking a good care of Horikita. Horikita kept wondering why Ayanokoji left the class, and her anger started to turn into doubt. Maybe Ayanokoji leave because she really is incompetent, or maybe Ayanokoji leave because he's getting tired of waiting for her potential to awaken. Horikita starts to wonder what will happen if only she were more dependable, or what would have happened if she hadn't lost in such a humiliating way back in the final special exam. Her overthinking made her lost in her own mind, and she cannot even focus in the class. One thing that makes it different about Horikita's 5 stages of grief is that her subject of grief is an actual person, not just an ideal or a dream like the others. In this moment, she literally lost Ayanokoji, and she still didn't know what actually happened for her to end up in such an outcome. And thus, we get shown the depression state of Horikita, where she seems to lose direction in her life. The scene with Kushida made it clear how desperate Horikita is. She literally sits on the chair waiting for Ayanokoji, and cannot even focus on the special exam, thinking that she no longer has someone to consult like usual. However, her depression doesn't drag on longer thanks to the people around her. The scene with Kushida, Ibuki, and Kei has actually proven that Horikita is never alone even if Ayanokoji is not around. Thanks to Ibuki delivering a very satisfying kick, Horikita managed to have a conversation with Kei. They share the same pain, but Horikita realizes her pain is nothing compared to her. If Kei could still walk and smile after everything that happened to her, it's just foolish for Horikita to keep crying for a man who left her. At the end, she finally accepts that Ayanokoji will never coming back, but she will keep walking forward with the one who is still there for her, both in mind and reality.